All right, guys. Josh here with Wired Walls. Today's guest is my good friend Chase Larson. Uh, Smoking good electrician, super smart guy. He's a guy that I'm calling constantly for ideas, electrical troubleshooting stuff. Former business owner, just an all-around stud of an electrician, stud of a person. So yeah, I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Well, thanks for the awesome intro. Yeah, Chase, ran my own company for about 20 years with my dad. We did a lot of everything, really. I've done residential, I've done commercial, industrial. Josh knows, he helped me out quite a bit, helped him. Did a lot of stuff in fruit, pulling cherry lines, all hops, and turns out fruit sucks.
Yeah. That's a man. When you have those accounts, like let's get right into that. When you have those accounts, you're married to them, right? The phone's ringing at all hours of the night, and it's like you got to be there or they're finding someone else. Is that a pretty fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, harvest is coming. So you got cherries coming in June, you got the apples in August, hops in August, and they didn't want to get stuff ready. And when they're running, they're running.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, yeah, you're on call, you're there, and they're always doing stuff. So it makes it hard to have summer and no light.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get more into the nuts and bolts of those kind of projects, like what was your like? How did you come up in the trade? Like obviously your dad was an electrician, but what got you into it, and what was your training, your initial training? Yeah.
No. So my dad, my senior year was getting pretty frustrated with his boss. So he's like, I'm going to go out on my own. And, my senior year, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I figured I was going to go to YC, just go to college. And my dad's like, well, what do you be an electrician? I was like, sounds great. I had no idea. It sounded like a good idea. My dad obviously made a good living. And so that was it. I got into it, and my dad got me into what was called IEC,
Okay.
and they had an apprenticeship program. So at the time, Washington had trainees or apprenticeships. Like at Perry was a training program,
Yep.
and IEC is an actual full apprenticeship. So it was 4 years going to class. I worked full time, and then I did night class once a week to once a month, depending on the time and teacher availability. But so I did that for 4 years and graduated that program as an apprentice. And then to my journeyman card after that, which was obviously wildly different than what Perry is.
Right. Right.
So, at least the Washington branch, this is, '03 to '07 sucked by IEC, and I believe IEC in Washington shut down.
Okay.
And so, it was an okay education as far as depending on the teacher in the year, but like it wasn't something I ran home about.
Yeah.
And so I think you learn more in Perry, but it sure is nice. It was cheaper, and you get to work 40 hours a week, so it's nice to be able to get money.
Yeah. So what he's talking about, just to clarify, so you have apprenticeship programs where you're working your 40 hours a week, and then you're doing some schooling in the evenings, maybe some labs on dedicated weekends, versus going to like a tech school where you're in school full time for a couple of years. That's the route that I went. I went to Perry Tech. It was, pretty much an 8 to 5 school day, for almost 2 years. Um, the way that I did it, I got 4,000 specialty hours for going to school. Then I got out and I worked 2 years straight of commercial industrial work to get my remaining 4,000 hours. And then I could go take my journeyman's test versus the route that Chase did it. He went with an apprenticeship program where he worked for 4 years, did some schoolings in the evenings and weekends, and then got his journeyman's card. So those are two defined routes to get to a point where both of us are with licensing. They're both good routes. And when we did it, you could do it both ways. And, like we covered in one of our first episodes, that process has since changed. And so, now to get that O1 card, you have to be in an accredited program, regardless if you go to Perry Tech. So, that's not necessarily what this episode is about. You can check out that other episode we have to get more into depth on that. But those are the two routes. Chase went one way, I went the other way. We both kind of ended up at the same end result. So pretty much, so you're working with your dad though the whole time, and he has a brand new business. You guys are building a business together. What were those first few years like? I mean, you guys were doing anything and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's feast or famine.
Yeah.
The first couple of years we're going hot and heavy for 6, 8 weeks, and all of a sudden then you're just dead.
Yeah.
And you just don't have the accounts to fill in all that gas stuff and whatnot. And that's something we built up. So 03 to 05 was either like we did okay, we
Yeah.
survived. And then 06, we really got into our first big industrial stuff. The accounts that my dad had previously, people he knew really started calling. That's when we did our first big cherry line, our first big office building. And it was just like from February to November, I think I was working like 7 hours.
Yeah.
I was working 7 days a week. It was just nuts. I was out of town a lot of the time. And after that, it became overall pretty silly. There's some lean years and some boom years, but
Yeah.
once you got there, you have enough clients and whatnot to kind of keep you going, and it becomes pretty good.
Right.
It's building up that clientele and getting it.
Yeah. So at what point, so father and son team, you guys are going at it together. At what point did you guys bring on more employees?
So 06, we really took off with a lot of work. We had 4 people working for us, and we were borrowing a couple guys at times just to try and get stuff done.
Yeah.
And it slowed down again after that enough where it just went back to my dad and I, which is nice in a lot of ways.
Right.
It's so much less headache. You don't have to deal with stuff, but it's really easy to get overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
We actually coasted at that till about 2014. So from about 07 to 2014, it was just back to my dad and I for the most part. We'd borrow guys here and there for a week or two. But
Yeah. And what he's referring to by borrowing guys is and this is something that they did with me when I first started my company is they would bring in other electricians as subcontractors. And so and there's a ton of advantages to that, right? Like let's say you have a little push of work, you need extra hands for 2 to 3 weeks. You call up your other neighborhood contractor that you have a relationship with, and you just say, hey, I got 2, 3 weeks worth of work. You got some guys, can you come help us out? And so that's kind of what he's referring to by, we're borrowing guys. And, when I first started WattSmart, I mean, I helped these guys on some big projects, and it was one of the things that kind of helped me get off the ground.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, as a new contractor, you're struggling trying to figure out where you're going to drum up work, and having that relationship in place was very pivotal to me, getting going. So yeah, it works out good.
yeah, it does. I mean, that's really how we got to know each other. It was
Yeah.
2015. We were slammed on some CAs, and I needed help. My tough was about to be born, and I know you were pretty slow at that point. And
Yep.
I think you're asking around a Stoneway, and John or someone in there told up my dad, and
Yeah.
we called you, and we had a couple of your guys that came out with us out for like a month.
Yep.
It was a decent time, and then obviously 2016
Yeah.
for us was a gigantic year.
Yeah. That's the year you guys did that cherry line down in Zillow, right? Yeah.
Cherry line in Zillow, we had a big cherry line in Grandview. And most of the one in Zillow, yeah, he helped us out a lot.
Yeah. So let's talk about like the differences between, like that ag work, which is what I'm calling industrial work. I mean, that's pretty industry standard. You're working on a food process line. Um, there's a lot of automation in these projects. The wiring methods are significantly different than residential.
Yeah.
And I would say some of the methods are similar to commercial work, but this industrial work is definitely it's kind of its own trade within the trade. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I think they're all their own thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I cannot go in and do a house efficiently like you and your guys could.
Right.
I mean, I know how to wire because we did a few. I wired my own, but it's still a skill set, especially if they wouldn't make money out of it.
Right.
But yeah, doing the industrial thing, it gets a lot more complicated because houses by and large are the same. Doesn't matter what the house is.
Right.
But you get in an industrial environment, there's all sorts of other stuff you got to deal with, maybe corrosive stuff, just a lot more safety type things, be able to run different kinds of pipe, understanding the control systems and whatnot. Yeah, it's definitely its own niche. It's a beast. So
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of control work, like just to clarify for the listeners. So when we talk about control work, that is control wiring, signal wiring. It's like the specialty wiring that is telling different motors to start. It's telling different valves to open. It's kind of the wiring, the really intelligent wiring behind all these industrial processes. And so I'm not going to lie, control wiring is something I've always struggled with. I really envy those guys who are really sharp at control wiring. It's complex for me. It's hard for me to understand. Um, let's talk about how, there are some electricians that really gravitate towards that side of the trade. And then you have other guys who are more, like builders, right? Like more pipe and wiring guys. Like I've always excelled at, any and all kinds of conduit work, the mechanical side of the electrical industry, versus you have that real special mind where you can just kind of see the circuitry and just kind of navigate through it. Like where did you get that training? And like, just tell me about
I mean, it goes back to my dad. He got into control wiring and specifically PLC stuff, which are computers that run industrial stuff.
it. Yeah.
So PLC is the thing that sends all the signals for the motor to start, for the gate to open, for the valve to shut, and whatever.
Right.
It's a specialized computer that works in an industrial environment. And he got involved in the early stuff in that in the 80s. And so when you get into the industrial environment, like cherry lines and apple lines are all for decades now been run on control systems, specifically PLCs and stuff now. And so '06, and in particular, we get our first cherry line, and there's a lot of control wiring on that, all sorts of stuff. This is a big 100,000 square foot building with lots of stuff going on. And so it's understanding controls really was, I had to.
Yeah.
My dad taught me a lot there, and over the years, it's something I liked, so I really gravitated towards it, and that's what I do now. I'm left the industry. I'm a control engineer,
Yeah.
my title, and so I am programming, I'm building cabinetry, I'm making stuff work in that element, and it is different. I'm a good electrician. I'm not the best pipe runner. Like I can run conduit and stuff all day long, but it's not something I excel at. I'm definitely good at circuitry and figuring out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brain works for it. I like it.
Yeah.
And so it's a different beast, and be able to grasp it, because a lot of people see it and you look at a print and there's just wires everywhere comparatively. It seems like it's a lot more complicated, and it is, but it really comes down to there's one wire doing one thing if you just look at it.
Yeah.
And some people can't do that. They can't break it down to the small parts in that aspect.
Absolutely.
I'm decent at mechanical stuff. I can understand it, but it's definitely not my strong suit, and it's not something I gravitate towards.
Right.
And, obviously you're a lot better there, and in your hobbies and stuff, it's like that too, comparatively. So it's its own thing. A lot of guys struggle with it because you need practice with it, and getting the opportunity once again, it's more of a niche thing in the industry. And a lot of businesses don't do anything with it. So guys don't, or electricians just don't get the opportunity to train with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with that. I mean, there are full companies around that just specialize in controls. Let's talk about the programming side of it. And so, you have a PLC that's pretty much it's a programmable logic controller, if we're getting technical, right?
Right.
And so this computer, PLC is controlling this process. Well, let's tell the people about, the program that gets written to do this. And that's something that you also have experience with, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's what my business we transitioned into. I was doing the full programming and integration, which means like installing the PLC system. So their PLCs you program in a few different languages. The most basic is ladder logic, and it's based off of old wiring diagrams before PLCs were a thing we called relay logic, where it was just actual physical wires. And on the computer screen, ladder logic mimics that. There's lines going across like where the wires would be. And you programming that on a computer. There's lots of different brands of PLCs. The big in the industries are like Siemens and Allen Bradley, particularly here in the United States.
Yeah.
There's Schneider, there's Beckhoff, there's numerous many brands. But if you're in the United States, you're gonna probably see Allen Bradley or probably see Siemens.
Yeah.
And so they have full lines. PLCs are really cool because you can buy a little $150 unit for really cheap if you want to play around with it, to tens of thousands of millions of dollars. I mean, it goes crazy. And they tie into all the touch screens you see on stuff. We call that an HMI.
Yeah.
And so you program the HMI to do whatever you want. It talks to the PLC, and it just gets more complicated from there. And now you talk to databases for your computer systems and all sorts of stuff. So the sky's kind of the limit in how complicated they can get now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the stuff that just kind of makes my brain hurt when I start, thinking about that. But your comment about breaking it into smaller chunks, I mean, that's something that I picked up from you a long time ago. And and if you apply that, to any of these wiring diagrams or these troubleshooting issues, if you take the big problem and you break it into small chunks and you start sorting through it one small piece at a time, a lot of times you can sort through and troubleshoot that way.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to it might be a big system with hundreds of parts, but you're just focused on this one valve. You want this valve to open and close for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So you just follow back the we call the logic, either in your head, either on a sheet of paper or whatever, but you just follow it back. And there's probably only two or three things that make that valve work at most. Maybe there's more than that, but at the end of the day, there's only so many things that interact with that one piece.
Right.
And so you just start troubleshooting back through those, two or three things. Maybe it's five or six, but it's usually if you can break it down in your head and wrap it around, it's only those few things that should involve what this works with. It becomes relatively simple, but it's being able to look at a system, especially if you have no prints and it's something you've never seen before, and break it down those pieces relatively quickly and understand it.
Right.
So,
Right. So we've worked on a lot of those projects together, the industrial, the apple lines, the cherry lines, the hot process. Now you guys have done a lot of commercial estate buildings as well, right?
Yeah, we had one particular contractor and builder who has several old states buildings leased to the Washington State around the state, and so we got in with them back in '03 actually.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we ran around the state doing a lot of office buildings for him, some other commercial stuff too that wasn't state related, but yeah, we did a fair amount of commercial work with them.
Yeah. And those are primarily office buildings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And housing is essentially the same thing in a lot of ways. It's got a bit more distant in the recent years with lighting automation and some other stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a house, you're just pulling home runs down a wall, going to an outlet. An office, you're kind of doing the same thing. Instead of Romex, you're pulling MC.
MC cable. Yeah.
And so it's not radically different.
Right.
It's a pretty easy concept for someone to jump to being a residential electrician just doing
To commercial stuff.
commercial stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, state buildings are a bit different because most commercial buildings are pretty straightforward. There's not much there, but the state has a lot of requirements that you have to fill. So we get
Right.
a bit more complicated.
And the energy codes have really affected how these buildings are wired,
Yeah.
right? And what I'm referring to is, so with energy codes, you have special lighting control systems that have daylight sensors in them, occupancy sensors, vacancy sensors. So when nobody's in the building, the lights are turning off automatically, or when there's full sun coming through the windows, the sunlight sensors are telling the lights to dim at 50%. Like, in a nutshell, that's kind of what the purpose of these systems are, right?
Yeah. And people hate it.
Yeah.
People don't so much mind the occupancy sensors, but the daylight sensors especially are really annoying. You get in an office, we got 50 people in various cubicles, and it really frustrates because someone wants it really bright, but this person wants it dead dark because they get migraines.
Yeah.
And it's, they get really annoyed when it starts dimming down because our sensors tell us it's bright enough in here, but to them, in their little corner, it's not.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
And so, but we have to put it in, but it's mandated now with energy code. So we have all that stuff, which made installations more expensive, made them more complicated.
What
Troubleshoot.
when did you start seeing those systems come in? Like around 2015?
14. My first one in 2014.
Okay. Yeah. And I've done a handful of those systems too. And you're spot on. Like, you can't make everyone happy in these offices. Like, some people like it bright, some people like it dim.
Yeah.
There's always somebody complaining about headaches when you're doing office lighting jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's interesting, but that happens on every one of those
Yeah,
jobs.
it was the same thing before this too. People hated fluorescent lights, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And so you'd have stuff where people didn't want to light above their cubicle on, and you have to try and please them that way. But you get enough people, everyone's a little bit different.
Right.
And so it's gotten better over the years. People kind of are used to it now. They expect it, but it is still something that is a bit of a challenge. But like, it just, the frustrating thing to me is, yeah, it does save energy and it's great, but it also makes the system a lot more complicated and it makes it a lot harder to troubleshoot.
Uh-huh.
So like now, a bunch of the state buildings I did, if their lights aren't working correctly, it's not just go in and find the light switch, because the light switch is controlled by a computer back in the closet.
Right.
So the whole system's daisy chained together with Ethernet cables. It all talks to each other.
Yeah.
And if one light's not working, it might not just because it doesn't have power. It might be because the computer's not talking to it correctly, or the relay over here is not working, or the daylight sensor is malfunctioning, or the occupancy sensor is malfunctioning.
Yeah. It could be 10 different things.
And so, yeah, it's saving energy, but it's also making it a lot more complicated
Yeah. And a lot more expensive.
considerably.
Yeah. And that's kind of the topic with a lot of my residential builders right now is, these building codes and energy codes have gotten stricter and stricter since 2014 up until now. I mean, houses, the requirements to build these houses are so much stricter, and that, they say they make them so much more efficient. But they're adding, 20 to 25% total cost to get them that way.
Yeah.
So, you have a combination of higher interest rates, higher building costs, stricter energy codes. And it's like, where does it stop? Like it just gets to a point to where this stuff is so expensive that it's pricing people out of building homes.
So it's crazy because it's not just homes, but in commercial, the HVAC too. All the HVAC systems have to get a lot more smart, a lot more energy efficient.
Yeah.
So we used to just they put the unit on the roof and we'd wire it up and that'd kind of be it. They'd zone it. Well, now that's not good enough. So they have to put in what's called VADs, which are just basically boxes that have resistive heaters in it around to try and bring the temperature back up to that specific zone.
Yeah.
And so instead of running one circuit for the HVAC, we're running 25. That is incredibly more expensive. It's more expensive
Yeah.
for the HVAC because you got to put all these in, the electrical put in, and then you're using resistive heat to heat the air back up to try and
Which is the most, it's the most inefficient way to heat something.
and like
You're literally burning dollar bills.
and everything has to put in. Everyone wants gas to go away, or a lot of people want gas to go away, so they
Yeah.
want heat pump units on the roof. They're incredibly more expensive. They break down more. They're a lot harder to service. And we have lots of issues with them on the HVAC world with power quality and some other stuff. And it's one of those things that it sounds great and it does help, but heating with gas is actually super efficient.
It is. I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I was gonna bring up as well. But like, what's your opinion on that big shift to get rid of natural gas? Like, I think it's silly.
I think it's silly because I think natural gas it's really efficient for heating water. It's really efficient for heating your house
Yeah.
or building, whatever it is. And it works really well and it's readily available in a lot of the US, probably the world. But I think I understand the thoughts behind it, but the systems we have now burn so much cleaner. They're so much more efficient and it works. Heat pumps are great in a lot of situations, but they have their limitations, especially the more you get north.
Yeah.
They suck at heating. Once you get down below about 30 degrees, the efficiency starts tanking.
It starts dropping way off. Yeah.
So I mean, that affects us, and the more north you get, or the colder regions you get, it's great if you can be more of a temperate climate. I think, but at the end of the day, like there's a lot of people that don't, they 6 months of the year it's cold,
Absolutely.
and so I think gas still has its place. So, and it's just it's a lot less complicated.
It is. It's a lot simpler, and it's cheaper. I mean, if you're running the thing, like my hang up with the heat pump system is exactly what you said. As soon as you get below that efficiency level, below 30 degrees or whatever, you're running on your backup heat in your furnace. And so you have two 60 amp circuits or a 60 amp and a 30 amp circuit humming along at full capacity. And I mean, I've seen $600-$700 electrical bills in February when it's been cold for 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah, you still get some efficiency down in the heat pump system, but the colder it gets, less it gets down. You get down to about depends on how efficient your system is, the SEER rating
Yeah,
and whatnot. But yeah, it's not the be all end all like some people think. So
absolutely.
gas has its place, especially if you are in a colder climate. I think.
Right. Well, since we're talking about, energy efficiency stuff, what's your take on solar?
Uh,
Because
we both have
we both have we both have our opinions on it, but and I do want to bring on like a solar expert, like somebody that's what they do, so I can like pick their brain on it. And we've had this conversation before, but like, what's your honest opinion on solar?
I think where we live, our energy is cheap.
Yeah.
Comparatively. And so it's really hard to make the numbers work for solar. Like I put solar on my house, 4 years ago now, 5 years ago now. And had I not done it myself, it'd be really hard to make my money back if you pay someone to do it because it's expensive.
Yeah, it's very.
I still like the idea of, I'm producing energy. I have the space for it. And there's a lot of good on that as well. But like in our area, electricity is just so much cheaper than if you're in LA and you're paying, 25 cents a kilowatt hour, it makes a ton of sense.
Right.
Like your power is really expensive, but we're paying 8, 9, 10. Like it's so much cheaper.
Right.
It's hard to make it pencil out the same.
Yes.
It's really nice, getting your bill and it's only $12 a month or whatever it is because you're just paying fees, and that's great. But it takes a long time to pay itself back, and the systems wear out. Like everyone said, look at, well, no, my panel's rated for 25 years. Well, in 25 years, it'll still hopefully be producing 80% of its power.
Right.
But your inverter's not rated for 25 years. If you have batteries, they're not going to last you 25 years.
Exactly.
If you have your other components in the system aren't necessarily going to be there, you're going to replace them maybe every 10 years. That you can get along with that.
Right.
But there's hidden cost in that. I think renting solar units or leasing those units is a crook. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like that you'll never actually do. You might feel good, but you're not making money. You're not saving money. Leasing systems is a terrible idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And and I get asked this question quite a bit, and that's exactly how I feel about it. I mean, power's cheap here, and especially since the federal tax credit went away this last year, now it's really hard to make it pencil, right? Like when solar first got popular here, in the mid 2005, 2008, when they had the Washington state credits.
Yeah, I did our first system in 05.
Yeah. So when it first came out, like you were hearing stories of guys saying, and I'm getting paid to put solar in. And that made sense with all the rebates and whatnot, right? But like today, in today's costs, the federal tax credit's gone. There are no more Washington state benefits. And so, man, it's really hard to make it pencil. And that's my thought on it too. It's like, if you're doing it for the reasons of, hey, I want to be green, I want to contribute, like that's great. And if you have the money and you can do it, like it does, it's a good thing to do. But like when you look at it from a financial standpoint, it's hard. Like I'm always upfront and honest with my customers, and like I tell them it's hard to make it pencil.
It is. It really is. And Yakima, we have 300 days of sun.
Yeah.
We have a lot of sun here, and it is hard.
Yeah.
Just in our area. But if you get to more expensive places, yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm not against it. Like I said, I have it, and I knew it wouldn't really fully pencil out great.
Right.
I saved a ton of money because I was able to do it. That's my business myself.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm so glad I did it. But if I'm going to build a new house or add it to my house, I want to, anyone I tell, I'm being realistic, it's going to cost you $35,000 or, it's tens of thousands of dollars to get it put on your house. Any substantial size system that actually making a difference.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take you 3 years to pay it back.
Yeah.
You're going to be paying on that for a long time, and there's ongoing maintenance that's realistically going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good. That's a good piece of the conversation. It's an interesting thing that always comes up, and it's something that people are really curious about. And I'm sure that there's a solar guy out there that's going to hear this and he's going to say, "Oh, those guys don't know what they're talking about." But yeah, we kind of do. We've done it. We've seen it. I look on my app all the time to see what my panels are doing. I've seen some solar quotes from other people around here, and I'll just be upfront, man. Like there isn't a lot of transparency with some of these guys that are knocking door to door trying to sell solar. I've seen it firsthand. And like I said, I'm not saying solar is a bad idea. I'm just saying from a financial standpoint, like it's hard. It's hard for the average person to make it make sense.
You're realistically maybe 10 years, you're going to get your money back.
Yeah.
But then you're looking at parts wearing out. I support it. If you can financially do it, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to use unused space on your roof, or if you have it on a bigger yard or whatever, I think it's a great idea. But it's like I said, don't ever lease a system. It affects you in a lot more ways than you don't really get paid back. It's hard to get sell your house because they have liens on your house and such like that. Banks don't like it.
Right.
There's a lot of negatives. Don't ever lease the system. But if you have the money, put it in. Yeah, I think solar's great. It's just not the be all end all like people kind of think it is, and the solar cells, but they will tell you it is.
Right. Exactly.
And what I've learned is I know other people that put solar in the house that aren't electricians, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have 35 panels. That's great." I was like, "Well, how much are you actually producing?" I don't know. Well, how much can your system produce? I don't know. I have 35 panels. Okay. Like, what is that?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot of
There's a lot of info in there. You can have a 200-watt panel, you can have a 500-watt panel. Like, there's a
Exactly.
lot of difference and at the end of the day, they realize, oh, it's great. In the summer, yeah, I have no bill, but come winter and it's not shining as much and I have a heat pump that's not as efficient.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I still do have a few $100 a month bill and they don't understand why,
Yeah.
because they were told I'll have an electrical bill again.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case.
Absolutely.
To fully, it depends on what your house is heated with. It depends on what some of your other electrical needs or what you do. But it's pretty common. A system that's going to make you have no bill the whole year is going to be huge.
Right.
Like, huge is expensive.
Huge is expensive.
And so then it becomes still hard to pencil out.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So Brady, let's shift gears into the business side of things. You guys have DNC Electric for how many years?
So we ran 03 to 22.
Okay. So 20 years essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, when you guys kind of made that decision to wrap it up, like, what did that look like? I mean, like, I know me and you were pretty close during that time. I know that you were really frustrated with things and, like, what did that look like, man?
So my dad had pretty well fully retired a couple of years earlier. For me, I was burnt out.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good crew at that time. I trained several apprentices that, got their journeyman card, then they left, particularly for the union,
Yeah.
which was really hard because I was paying really well compared to the union. We had full benefits. Like, I just had full health, they had vacation, they had various stuff, and then we were doing a lot of state work.
Yeah, a lot of prevailing wage work,
So
which is very lucrative for the electrician.
it's very lucrative, but like doing prevailing wage, you can actually usually subtract your benefits out of that.
Yeah.
So my guys were getting full prevailing wage plus benefits, and they were getting several months a year, if not whole year, doing. They were making pretty good money.
Yeah.
At that, a lot of it, and still they take off, and that was frustrating. It's really sucks to put a lot of time and money, frankly, into people, train them up, and have them go. So that was disheartening because it was really hard to find journeymen.
Oh, yeah.
It was hard now than it was then. And so that was part of it. And I was doing cherry line after cherry line or apple line, and I was just running around. I was working at least 60 hours a week every week.
Yeah.
I couldn't go on vacation if my phone didn't work. It just stressed me out because I get calls at all times.
Yeah.
Stuff would break down, and I was just burnt out. So I figured I needed to do something different.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of it. Work kind of slowed down at the end of 2021, which is normal in winter.
Yeah.
And at that point in 21, two of my biggest clients had shut down, like by happenstance. They were related to each other at all. And so that was also like, maybe I should just do something different because they were two of the ones giving me the most consistent work.
Yeah.
Without having that, it would have been a lot harder to keep guys busy and keep going. So it's just like,
Yeah. I know we talked like right before you made that decision. And I remember you were telling me, you're like, I think I'm going to start, bidding like public bid jobs and like, keep trying to land work. And then it's like, it's frustrating. You lose guys, that after you spend years training them and then they leave, and it's like you kind of get the wind taken out of your sails.
a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't fault any of them. I hope they're happy. I want everyone to do well. And it's just, it's the industry. People go, you can't expect people to stay with you forever. I think
Right.
that's unrealistic. And, I don't have any ill will, and it is what it is. But yeah, losing my accounts particularly was at that point. I was like, I just, I don't want to chase new accounts. I don't want to do public bid jobs because they're
Yeah.
just a crapshoot. We had some success at it. We did a few here and there, and we made money.
Right.
But it's, it's not something I really want to chase after. So I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you kind of got to wind it down on your own terms though, right? Like it was like, I just need to do this for myself, for my mental health, and like you wanted to be with your kids more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got to make that call. I could have kept it going. I might have had to lay guys off and go with a smaller crew, but I could have kept doing what I was doing, but I wasn't enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And so I had my daughter was 5 at the time. I just had my son, and I wanted to hang out with my kids, and I didn't have that option when I was running the business very well.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I decided, you know what, I'm going to try something new. That's when I got out of industry and went into the role I'm in now. as a title as control engineer, and it was a lot more chill
Yeah.
in some ways. I'm part of a startup it's been a mess in some ways because we also have no money.
Yeah.
And that's been a rough road, but it's entirely different. It's not, there's no harvest coming. There's no rush to get in
Right.
when that comes in. And there's not too many people standing around because the line's not running.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to find work for 4 or 5 guys to keep them busy because they have families. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Like there's a lot less stress with it, which is nice.
Yeah. And that's, and that's the part that, that's the part of owning a business or entrepreneurship that doesn't get talked about enough, right? When you have employees, there's always this level of anxiety, like, okay, we got to make sure everybody has hours, and then when it's too busy, it's like, man, I don't want these guys to get upset because we're working too much.
Yeah.
And so like, there's never, like, I've come to the realization that like, there is no such thing as balance. Like when you own a business, it's like, you're always like, I'm married to my phone, and it's not nearly as bad as like you had it when you were, monitoring these agriculture accounts that are they're high priority, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, they have to be running. They're running 24 hours a day. Like it's very high priority that you're there, or they just go to the next guy and they find someone else. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's, like for me, the last, it's like, I say owning a business is like, just beating your head against the wall every day. Essentially, some days are better than others. I enjoy the challenges, like to an extent, but man, like I definitely have the last few years had stints where it's like, I'm burned out, and so, and that was kind of a part of me, like starting this podcast, is to do, just something a little different to kind of break it up. I got real into the fitness stuff just to kind of help my mental health, and that stuff has helped a lot. But yeah, there's anybody that's listening that's thinking about taking that jump, just know that balance isn't a thing. Like,
You're incredibly hard.
It is hard, man. Like, it is very hard, and you gotta really want it. And I think the other key thing, man, is like, when you get to that point where you are over it and you are miserable and you are just done, like, you gotta know when to hang it up.
Yeah. No, it was incredibly hard because my dad and I had built something, particularly my dad, on the first several years I was not useless, but I was green, I was an apprentice. And we did quite well. We were very comfortable, but it worked a lot. I was always working at least 50 hours a week, pretty much year round. And it was exhausting. It was really hard. My dad's blessed, and he's like, you know what, you can tell I was miserable.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you need to do something else. And it's been great the last few years. Like, I'm gonna take time off, I'm gonna go fishing. It's awesome. And it was a really good decision. And so, if you can get a couple, 3 guys and a couple really competent guys to help with your business, it's great. But it's really hard to find someone who wants to take that plunge with you and stick with you, because rightfully so, they start building up enough of their own accounts essentially and whatnot. They want more of the pie.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't want to necessarily do that or share that. And so it's really hard to have good, competent guys that want to help take that load off you that can.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they want to open their own business. That's fair. They want to control things too. So they'll take off or they'll do that other stuff. So it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard, like being, small, right? Because it's a very personal thing, right? Versus you get these massive companies that are, 200-300 electricians, and that's like on a whole nother level where there's so much different leadership and different tiers. And when somebody leaves, it's like, whatever, there's another guy that's going to step into that role. But when you're small, like we are, when you lose like that key person or your lead or whatever, it's like, well, now it all falls on you to off of the field and take their place until the next person is ready to go. And what I find is like, so that's kind of the balance that I struggle with, is it's like, I'll go land a big job and then the guy running it, they'll bounce out. Well, now I'm the next guy up. So I'm out there running the job. Meanwhile, everything business wise that has to be handled is falling to the wayside, right?
It's hard.
And so it's like, it can be a struggle. I mean, obviously you can do really well financially and, if you can deal with the stress and deal with all the hurdles, but there's definitely a big price on that. And with how much electricians make these days, I mean, it's hard, like as an owner, like I get it when somebody moves on to make more money or advance themselves. I 100% get it. I mean, there's times where I look at jobs and I'm like, man, I could go run work for that person and, make $150,000 a year and have zero stress.
Yeah. No, it's hard because I never want to be big. So we only ever have a few guys.
Yeah.
When you lose them, like, all you guys personally. Like I was friends with a lot of, essentially as much as you can because of, with the dynamics, but
Right.
I knew them all personally. I knew a lot about their lives. And so when you see them go, it is kind of like losing a friend and it sucks.
Yeah.
It is someone it's not just someone who worked for you for 2 or 3 years or whatever.
Yeah.
You kind of saw it. I worked with these guys side by side every day.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, it is really hard when you lose people like that, but the other one's got to chase their opportunity.
Yeah.
So it happens, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And it's hard to, like for me, and I think you would agree with it. It's hard for me to separate my feelings from it sometimes. Dude, it's like, man, dude, like we were friends. Like we did work together for the last 3 years every day, I've lost guys that, I was bummed out about it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that sucks. Like I liked being around that person. Like he was a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other side of this that I wanted to touch base with you is, your engineering experience. So like I've seen the prints that you do. I've been on your jobs. Like the prints that you have built and provided on the stuff that I've seen are top tier, right? Like the design is thought out, the pipe runs, like it looks like something that would come from an engineer, but you're technically not an engineer, right? Like you're just good at design.
Yeah. It came from being in industrial stuff and particularly the PLC side of things. I had to read a lot of plans, and I realized, particularly on my commercial jobs, start is where I started. We were drawing everything by pencil. My dad would take a set of prints, everything would be drawn in by pencil.
Yeah.
And that's fine as long as you have that one master set that's got 17 different things erased. It's hard to read.
Right.
And back in 2014, when we actually did that first job with the controls for lighting, I realized, I can sit here and think this all out, and then I can do it in CAD, and I can design all the pipe runs. I can do all this stuff. So then I have one set of prints that I print out for everybody.
Yeah.
In the team, and we're all doing the same thing. So I can go and tell you, go run pipes 3, 4, and 5. And you know exactly what's in 3, 4, and 5 because I put all on Excel sheet. Everything's color coded. And I figured out that worked really well because one, you can build stuff a lot more efficiently. It's easier to figure out what things are.
Yeah.
Everyone knows where things are. And then when you can go back, 2 years later, oh, I ruined that pipe right there. And I know that pipe goes over here and stops here. And so that's been really great. My clients really liked it because when we got to go back years later, we can easily figure out what's there.
Right.
The guys really like it because it's clear cut what they're supposed to do. It's clear cut where things are supposed to be. And so that's worked out really well. And yeah, I found out most people in the industry don't do that.
Yeah.
And we've done projects together where the engineers engineer it and they still are the same.
Yeah.
And it still is a lot more ambiguity and it makes it harder to get things done efficiently. And so I just did it because I saw the need.
Yeah.
And I thought, everyone would be doing this, right? Because it just makes sense. And turns out almost nobody does it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's not a lot of guys that do it. And I mean, like all the plans I get from contractors, most of them don't have electrical plans. I mean, it's like a basic floor plan and we're design building it. And that's something that we've gotten into is doing some design build on paper. And yeah, man, it's beneficial for everybody.
No, it's great. Like I'm still getting calls on that cherry line in 2016 we did, and I still have my plans for it. And there's a ton of underground in that project, thousands of feet of underground. And I can tell you where everything comes up because we did it all within a couple inches exactly where it needed to be.
Right.
And so when stuff pops up here years later, I can pull out the prints, like, no, it should go over here and this is what should be inside of it.
Absolutely.
So it's super beneficial.
Yeah.
I still have commercial buildings that we did years ago. I do the same thing. I get called on it because this isn't quite working or what's here. And I can pull it up and I say, well, this pipe has, 6 wires in it. So there's room if you guys want to add something to it. I tell them to look for, pipe run 37.
Yeah.
It's worked out.
Right on. So early on in your career, you kind of flirted with the idea of getting an engineering degree, right?
Yeah, 2011. I went back to school or went to school and went to college before that. Went to YVC. I got my associates, and then I went to WSU Tri-Cities for a semester because at that point I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep being an electrician thing. It kind of sucked until I get ready.
Yeah.
And so I got partway through there, and then we landed some big work in 2014. And I realized, I'm glad I went to school. I learned a lot of stuff that has helped me with, especially with CAD side of things and some other stuff. And so I mean, I have my associates. I could go back and finish my electrical engineering degree, and maybe I will.
Yeah.
Maybe I will not. But I like that process, and it's really been helpful the way I pursue things on the control side and the CAD side and doing that stuff.
Right.
But it's not something I suggest every electrician do.
Yeah.
It's very specialty and helped me in my case. So
Yeah. Now engineering, that piece of this trade is very math focused.
I mean, to get your degree, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it very math focused when you're trying to plan out like engineer services and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing a lot of design build engineering before I went to school, and I've done a lot since then. It's not so, but I mean, there's math involved. Sure, you got to do calculations, but it's not like you're doing high level math. You're basically doing multiplication and arithmetic. Like there's more to it. You're just figuring out how much load do you actually need. Okay, I need a 400 amp service. I need
And it's like stuff like that's like applied math that you apply within the codes of the electrical code book, right? So it's basic math, but applying it with the codes that in the standards that are set for our trade.
Yeah, even when you get into like the industrial stuff and you're putting in VFDs, very frequency drives for motors, which make motors speed up and slow down.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff, like so much of it's figured out. It's relatively straightforward. Sure, depending on what you're doing, if you get a lot more theory side, if you're doing electrical engineering, that could be a lot more math. But like the practical stuff I was doing and we see in industry that it's not terribly math.
Yeah.
And it's more just experience, knowing what a typical system would be. And then, usually it's actually you just work with your reps. You go to Square D or you go to whatever. You talk with them. Okay, what are your guys' options that you have that'll fit this bill?
Right.
Like it's pretty easy to add up. Okay, I have 37 motors. You know the size of the motors. You know how much power you need.
Right.
Like there's not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I just like to ask that question because it's, you hear it over and over when people say, oh, well, you got to be good at math to be an electrician.
I mean, you got to be good at math to be a carpenter.
Exactly. But it's not like crazy. It's not like you're doing algebra expressions like out in the field. Like that's not a thing.
I mean, you actually are doing algebra usually. That's the thing. Algebra so much they don't understand, but doing nice out of that. But I mean, you're not doing calculus. You're not doing you're doing a little bit of trig. You're not doing. People do a lot more math than they realize.
Yeah.
But being an electrician, you're doing a lot of stuff, especially bending pipe and doing that kind of things, figuring things out. Just like a carpenter. Like a carpenter, the math they do, they get really good at, and they're doing a lot of trig, they're doing a lot of geometry.
Yeah.
People don't really realize it. But you're not doing all that just crazy amount of math that you're really sitting down, filling out sheet after sheet of doing math.
Right.
No. It's fairly basic stuff. And once you learn the things you need, you have a few formulas and you just use them over and over again for pipe bending and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hesitate to disclose this, but with pipe bending, I mean, I've gotten good at 30s and I know the math. It's easy. And it's like,
you
can typically make it work with 30s and 90s.
Yeah. What's pipe for 40 buys? It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not like you're doing all that much work, but 45 suck.
Yeah.
So it is 30s this times too. We sure like to do
it. Does exactly. Right on, man. So if you had any advice to somebody thinking about, getting into the trades, what would you tell that person?
Do it. I mean, we're losing more electricians than we're making.
Yep.
And the state made it harder with the rule changes a few years ago.
Yes, they did.
And so one thing I encourage you to try and do it, but understand finding, you can go to Perry, but Perry, last I knew, still has a pretty good wait list.
Yeah.
And then you still have to find for Washington State, you still have to get an approved apprenticeship after that.
Yeah.
That is harder and harder. But particularly if you can get your J card, you're pretty well set, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, we are losing more electricians than we're making every year. So, and everything's just getting more technical, more electrical.
Right.
So if you can get that, you're as long as you're not an incompetent, terrible person and can't have your life together, you can have a job.
Absolutely.
And you can go anywhere. You can go, I guarantee any spot, at least in the United States, and you'll be able to get a job because electricians are needed everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's fairly true of all the trades, just because everyone pushed for college. You need to go to college. When we were in school, that was the big thing.
That was the big push, right? It's like, oh, you got to be 4 year ready.
Yeah, and so college is not for everyone, and frankly, like it's great for the person it works for, but there's a lot of people that go into a trade. You get to move every day. You're not sitting at a desk. People
Yeah.
but no, you're going to burn your body out in 10 years. You're going to be crippled. Like, no,
No, that's not.
I mean, you can be, but it's not exactly, you see everyone sitting at a desk all day being healthy and,
Right.
good to go. Like, I liked my job when I was working in the field, particularly because I was fit.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to go to a gym because I was walking 25,000 steps a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff. And
Yeah.
it's great in that aspect because I felt really good. And people, you can burn your body out and you can hurt it if you're stupid. And I need people to realize, if your boss is asking you to do stuff that's not okay, you need to have a smart enough head to realize, no, there's a better and safer way to do this. Because there's shitty bosses. They'll push things on that aren't safe. So they'll do
Absolutely.
like that. So
Yeah.
kind of get your head wrapped around that, but also realize, you're gonna have to call that addict.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some unglorious things that you have to do in the trades, but that's a part of any learning process, right?
Yeah.
That's a part of any job or any of these things. And it does take time to become a journeyman, right? Like you have to stay kind of consistent. And that's kind of the theme with a lot of the people that I talk to is like there has to be some consistency, right? Like you got to keep showing up, you got to keep doing the things, you got to keep your foot on the gas to get certified. And then once you are certified, you're set for life. I mean, you really are.
As long as you can keep your hours and as long as you, like I said, you can show up for work and do your job, you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Some people can't do that. It doesn't matter if they're an electrician or not. Some people just can't seem to have their life in order to be consistent with that. But
100%.
that's not unique to us. That's the way life works. But versus you go to a job and get a business degree, like it's a craft.
Yeah.
Or if you go to school and get a business degree, like who knows?
It's open ended. I mean, you might be managing a Denny's with that degree.
You just might, you could do really well.
Right.
But there's no guarantee on it. And if like you work 10 years at a company and they lay you off, we're kind of in a spot right now where it can be really hard to do what you do to get a job.
Absolutely.
If you're an electrician and you're heavy tournaments hard, fine. As long as you don't burn all your bridges, you can go and get a job.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to ask, and I've forgotten to ask the last couple of people I've had on the show, but how are you using AI?
I use it a lot now.
Yeah.
For my work, we're doing now with the control engineering. It is really great and also really limited. But I learned early on how to use Google and whatnot really well to search on stuff. And
Yeah.
AI takes that to the next level where it can find information really quickly.
Right.
But you got to. And so it can put together some stuff really well as long as you understand how to do the prompts and work with it and understand that AI hallucinates a lot. So you can't just believe what it's saying. You need to take it. It's a good jumping off point. It's a good way to edit things you've done, proofread things you're going through and look for small mistakes. It can help point that out, but never trust it. Like you need to go through and verify what you're doing, but it can certainly take a large load off of what you're trying to do when you're trying to especially start planning things out or get ideas for things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also go through and proofread or just, submit your plans or whatever and tell it to find mistakes. It's actually really good at that.
Yeah.
So I there's a lot of people that hate AI because it takes away jobs or it uses a lot of energy, and those are valid and whatnot. But automation's taken a lot of millions upon billions of jobs over the last 100 years.
Yeah, it's part of progress, right?
It's a form of automation. It's not going away.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We're in a bubble with it. It's eventually going to crash, but it's not like it's going to go away. It's just going to not be nearly so much AI for every single little thing.
Yeah.
Trying to solve this niche problem that they're trying to sell you to. You're going to have a few big AI companies that'll be it again.
Yeah. So your opinion, you think the AI stuff will taper off eventually?
Well, I think it'll come down to a few companies that are doing it. Like right now, there's people with any AI idea are able to get a bunch of money.
Right.
And we're starting to get on the back end of that, I think, because people are realizing AI is not going to solve everything. it has heavy limitations on it actually being able to produce stuff without a person doesn't have the confidence to understand that it's crap.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, we'll have it not as part of every individual system. There'll be a few big AI systems that kind of do stuff, and then we'll go from there. Because like a lot of big companies, like we got to be first in AI right now. So like they developed their own internal AI system for their company, and they realized, they have 7,000 people and 7 people used it.
Right.
And it's just it's really one of those things that's just it has its limitations. It's great in a lot of ways, but once again, it has its limitations. And you need an intelligent person to run it. Otherwise, it's just producing crap.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Right on. That's an interesting take on it. Yeah. I mean, I like to ask that question just in random conversations with people I run into, because it runs the gamut.
Yeah.
Like some people are just like, oh, it's doom and gloom. It's going to take everyone's jobs, and everyone's going to be on a universal basic income in 5 years. And it's like, I don't think that's the case. I mean, like I'm using it for basic stuff, documents, and I'll prompt it for ideas on stuff. Like, hey, give me the foundation of XYZ,
Yeah.
or like the research piece of it, like looking up how to program a VFE.
Yeah.
Like the basic, like you said, taking the Google search thing to another level. I think it does good on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it affects the electrical industry, and then how it affects everybody's day to day in 5 years from.
Yeah. I think the electrical industry is pretty safe. I don't see AI out there calling on addicts and running pipe.
Right.
I mean, people are, we're going to have robots do that. It's like, yeah, we're going to have robots do that maybe in 10 years in a limited aspect, but there's a long ways to go with that. And you still have to have a person that can function with it,
Right.
and help it. But a lot of office jobs, sure, I can see it being eliminated, but we've been eliminating jobs in the industrial environment for decades with automation.
Yeah.
It's just a natural progression of it. And yeah, it sucks for whoever loses their job. I get that. But that's what's been happening for 100 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has.
But, those are all blue collar jobs. And people don't care as much about that because they're not as high paying jobs either.
Right.
I mean, sure, they can be, but now that it's hitting the white collar jobs, in some ways, people in those industries are starting to realize, oh, this isn't okay.
It's been happening. That's an interesting take. I've never thought about it like that. It has to be happening to those plant jobs and stuff like that since the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, yeah, and all those people that it sure affected them and they cared, but they weren't. Usually went to people making the big money,
Right.
So whatever. But now that it's able to affect office jobs to a lot higher degree, people on that industry are realizing, oh shit, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
And there is moral things about it with how much power it uses and various other stuff where it affects the world, but it's here to stay. It's
Absolutely.
not going away.
Yeah.
So there's people that. Kids are learning as well because they just dump all their homework into AI and it learns for them. And there is concerns about that because you do have a baseline of how to do things.
Yes.
Because you got to understand when AI is hallucinating and it's wrong.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the ability to figure that out, it's crap in, crap out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's here. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
We got to learn how we're going to eventually have it as our daily part of our life, essentially. Well, what is it running? Maybe you're not using it every day, but it's going to be there.
It's going to be there. Yeah, it's going to
And
be.
if you want to become efficient at your job, especially in an office environment, how can you utilize it to best move forward so you get to keep your job?
Right. No, that's all good stuff, man. Right. I think that's all I have, man. You got anything else you want to add?
No, we're good.
That was good. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on.